what is the stance of ActionSA on whistleblowers? If you think about all the information that has come to the fore to become public through investigative journalists who get it a lot of times from people inside the system, in private sector and public sector, who said something is going on there. Or some people lost their jobs because they refused to sign a document because that document would lead to monies going to places where they shouldn't go. But there's still not sufficient support, and I don't hear opposition parties, including the ActionSA, standing up to say we have got to do something to support whistleblowers and others who stand in the path of corruption and abuses in South Africa. These people have lost their jobs. Some of them continue to live under threat. They've been forced out of the country. They are untouchable because big businesses, in collusion with the ANC, they say you can't employ that person. If you employ that person, you're not getting this contract over there. So these are the people thanks to whom we know what is being done to South Africa. Look at what they've been doing to the Raider now. He's the bad guy. Actually, he's telling the truth. What are you guys going to do?
Yeah, well, look, ActionSA is very clear. Sir, Herman Mashaba made a statement about just that last week to say whistleblowers need to be protected better than they have been. Unfortunately, and very regrettably, thousands of whistleblowers have been killed in this country. Babita Deokaran and people like that. And now we've discovered again that there's more, that there are syndicates in the Department of Health siphoning off more money. We've got Zweli Mkhize. He was an ANC presidential candidate to be the president of the ANC, and he's implicated in 150 million rand theft of digital vibes, and Babita Deokaran was killed because of that. Yet you can still present yourself as an ANC candidate. So look, the ANC has got no credibility whatsoever on the protection of whistleblowers. They have now, I think, painted themselves into a big corner with Andre de Ruyter. Because de Ruyter came out with some explosive commentary. The ANC have now sued him and said that he must provide the details. And there's a saying in life that says, be careful what you wish for, you might just get it all. And I think that people are now tired of being threatened, of seeing people killed who have the courage of their convictions. And I must commend de Ruyter for that interview and having the courage of his conviction, because I personally do believe that he did tell the powers of be of what was happening in Eskom, but they don't want to hear. Cyril Ramaphosa, for example, says he's going to appoint a minister of electricity. Well, the facts are that he was the minister of electricity effectively in 2015, when Jacob Zuma appointed him as deputy president to fix up Eskom. And he said then by the end of 2015, there'll be no load shedding. They don't want to fix it because they can't stop feeding at that trough. And the ANC itself is being kept afloat by the kind of corruption that's bleeding state-owned enterprises dry. That's what keeps the ANC going. They used to do it formally through Chancellor House and that kind of thing, which is completely, illegal and should never be entertained. But now the informal leeching and bleeding of state-owned enterprises has really broken them down. So we are very clear. If you have an ANC government, for example, that's slogan is Batupili, putting people first, well, then surely you have to protect whistleblowers who speak up about the people, to say, well, people are getting poor service delivery because this is happening in this department, or this person stole that money, and I saw this happening, and the next minute they disappear, or they themselves get arrested. Matupili does not exist in South Africa. We do not put people first. We put the ANC first. The president says so himself, and then the country comes second. So that is why South Africa deserves a better government. South Africa deserves a much more ethical government and an honest, better government.
Athol, I know that we have 4 minutes before you leave, but I have this one last question for you. I interviewed some time ago with the former deputy head of the Electoral Commission, Independent Electoral Commission, and he admitted in that interview that elections have been rigged before. We know that they tend to use society members, and as electoral officers, and we don't know who transports, who prints the ballot papers. Now the Russians are in South Africa, and the Chinese. Some people are saying, what if they're helping the ANC rig the elections for next year? Because elections are not stolen on the day they happen. You should know that. They can be stolen long before they happen. Do you guys trust the integrity of the IEC? Or do you think that the IEC is secure from the ANC or for any potential abuse? Or are you guys looking at it and, especially now with all the load shedding happening, surely they have to be put under pressure to say to South Africans, we are working on a plan to make sure that load sheddings, if they happen next year, they don't impact with our democracy.
Look, I think we're going to have load shedding for a long time, and apparently we're heading towards stage 7 right now. So there's an all likelihood that we'll have load shedding during the elections. But we've shown that we can keep the electricity on over Christmas, so we can keep it on election day. There should be no doubt about that. And the government must be told that we expect there to be electricity for the full duration of the elections. It can be done for Christmas, it can be done for elections. That's the first point. The second point is that there is no doubt that the ANC has corrupted the IEC. Even the man in the street or the gogo in a rural village, they know that. They say ANC, IEC, Ndwinye, same thing. So there is one advantage that we have in South Africa. We've got more political parties than any other country in the world, which means that these political parties, many of them come from the ANC. They know where the tricks are. They know where the bodies are buried. There are lots of eyes watching these elections. So you'll see, especially during by-elections, where everything is focused in one place, all the parties are watching each other. The margins are very close with the ANC. It's when you have a national election and a provincial election where things are happening in deep rural villages and maybe they're not a proliferation of political parties there to check on each other. That's where the real skullduggery goes on. But, ActionSA has now established itself in all 9 provinces. We will make sure that we've got people at every voting station watching the ANC like a hawk to make sure they can't cheat. And also our system is a manual system. So it's very difficult to corrupt with, let's say, artificial intelligence, and that the Russians and the Chinese are so good at. Very difficult to corrupt that, because you've got a voters roll, and the only place where you can really have skullduggery is if people who are deceased are still voting. But, you can have a party voting agent checking that if it says Solly Moeng, looks like Solly Moeng, and it's not a Makulu that's going to vote. And we can do that, and we can limit that. And then the counting is manual and the checks and balances are there. So I'm not saying that it's not corrupted. The IEC is definitely corrupted, especially with SATU teachers being employed as the defenders of the electorate, as the presiding officers, because if you're a SATU member, you also vote ANC. It's not a debate.
Yeah.
Not a debate. So that is a big problem, and there's an ongoing battle in the IEC and in the Electoral Commission about appointing independent people, even people without jobs. The IEC says you can't employ an unemployed person because tomorrow they'll be here and the next day they get a job, and people aren't getting jobs in this country. So you can get a job, and it's a well-paid job being an IEC presiding officer. If it's a temporary job, it will be respected, and I believe we need to capacitate more independent South Africans to be overseers of our election.
Yeah, SATU and COSATU people must be out of there. People forget that COSATU is a member of the Tripartite Alliance, and sometimes they stage these marches, but they have got representatives in the cabinet and in the ANC numbers in cabinet. We've been fooled for too long. We have to wake up from this stuff.
Well, COSATU and the SACP have been contesting elections since 15 years ago. They never contest. Yeah. They always threaten to contest so that they can negotiate themselves positions higher up the pecking order. Bladen Zamande is the classic example. He's been the Secretary General of the South African Communist Party for decades, and he always finds himself a plum ministerial position because of that, and they've never contested for one vote. They've never put up one SACP poster to contest for a provincial or national or local government election. So they are the ultimate, parasites. A parasite, just like a tick, it chela to the host and it sucks the host dry. That's what they're very good at doing.
What are your parting words to the viewers of WorldView?
My parting words. Look, I think that South Africa really is lucky that we have a relatively independent media, and that the media gives people access to these kind of discussions, and that we have got a very strong social media platform. I recently saw some figures that South Africans use social media more than any other nation in the world. Despite our poverty and despite the fact that we've got so many unemployed youth, I suppose it gives them time to be on social media. And these things and your programs have turned every single cell phone into a television and a newspaper, and that stands our democracy in very good stead. So thank you very much to those of you that are in journalism and in the media for informing South Africans, because South Africans need to make informed decisions.
Athol, thank you very much for making the time to have this conversation with us. I'm sure it's not going to be the first one. You know, the sense shift all the time in South Africa. There will be reasons for us to meet again before the next elections. Hopefully, when you guys have clear plans about how you're going to tackle the beast, we'll have a conversation again. But thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Zolly. Appreciate yours.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.